Welcome to the Spark Creativity Teacher Podcast, a podcast for English teachers in search of creative teaching strategies delivered in the amount of time it takes to pack your lunches for the week or finally clean out your junk drawer. I'm Betsy Potash, and I'm glad to welcome you to episode 24, all about the possibilities that open to you in class when you learn how to navigate blogging. In my Facebook group this week, someone asked how to get rolling with a student blogging project, and it took me back through my various blogging adventures. I started my first blog back in 2008 to document my adventures with my husband living and teaching abroad in Bulgaria. It was called From Another Angle, and I'll be happy to link it in my show notes today if you want to check out all of our travel and adventures. I was stunned by just how easy it was to pop my travel photos and stories into the blogosphere so that my family back in the US, and in the end, quite a lot of other people too, could follow along. In fact, it was so easy that I started 3 more while I was there. One about learning to cook in Bulgaria, one for my IB English students who are constantly missing class to give them updates and link their assignments, and one with my 10th graders to share their choice reading recommendations with the world. Oh, and I also started a blogging elective and had all my 12th graders create their own writing portfolio blogs. Did I mention I got pretty into the whole blogging idea? No sooner did I learn what a widget was than I was off to the races. And that's what I want for you too, because blogging is such a great option in so many different educational scenarios. In this episode, I'm going to give you a really quick introduction to my favorite simple platform and then walk you through a bunch of ways to use it. Blogs are an awesome way to empower students to share their own ideas with the world and to give them authentic audience. I'm really excited about this episode, so let's jump in. Okay, so I'm going to share 5 different ways that you could use a Blogger blog once you get going with the platform. And it's really easy to start out on Blogger. It's a free host for any type of blog, and all you actually need is a Gmail address. So if you don't have one yet, all you would have to do is go to Gmail, create an address, and that's all your students would have to do too. And then you'd go to blogger.com, and it would walk you through, I think, 3 or 4 super simple steps. You click start a blog, you put in your Gmail address, you put in your password if you're not signed in, and then you choose a blog address and you choose a blog name. You might have to get a little creative because there are already a lot of blogs in the world, but I'm sure you and your students will think of something. Then you choose a layout for your blog from a bunch of different templates that they have to offer. It's kind of fun to surf through and look at all the different ones. I guarantee your students will run the gamut on the styles that they will choose, and they will probably also even figure out ways to import different, more unique and interesting templates into Blogger, which is also an option, but not for beginners. So then you'll just click, I think, see my blog or start my blog, and you're on. It's very easy. It takes about 5 minutes, but just in case you're nervous, I am going to link in the show notes today over to my Facebook group where after this episode releases, I'm going to do a Facebook Live that's just going to walk you through starting a Blogger blog so you can actually just see what it looks like. And if you have trouble with it, you can always pop a question there under that video and I will do my best to answer. So once you get going on this platform, like I said, it's so quick, then you're going to have all these options open to you for how you can use blogging in the classroom, and it's really great. Before we start with the 5 options, I want to give you 1 word of warning and 1 word of comfort. The word of warning is this. Be sure that you and your students on any school-related project on a blog never share your personal information. So this is really important just for liability's sake, to protect everybody. No one should put their last name. No one should put even their email address, their phone number, nothing that is going to give away who they are, so that in the unlikely event that somebody was to see their blog and want to meet them, they can't. That's just not an option in an educational scenario. So that's the word of warning. Here's the word of comfort. Students can handle the technology. So as you approach this, if you start to get a little nervous, oh my goodness, I'm asking my students to embed a video, or I'm asking them to put in a widget, or whatever, and you're feeling a little uncomfortable, just don't worry about it. You can remind the students, hey, oh, you want to do that crazy cool thing that I don't know how to do? Good for you. Google it, right? They can Google how to speed up an iMovie and embed it in your blog. They can Google how to embed sound clips in Blogger. It's not a problem. There are YouTube tutorials on practically everything in this world, and certainly for just about everything that you can do on a blog. I first assigned students, for example, to create podcasts 8 years ago before I ever recorded one myself, and tech was never an issue. They figured it out, or they already knew. And so don't let that be an obstacle for you as you get started here. If you learn the basics, you'll be able to guide them on the basics, and then they can take it to the next level. And chances are you will quickly find yourself getting comfortable taking it to the next level too, because it's really, it's not too tricky. And I think you're actually just going to love it. All right, so here's the first use. You are comfortable with Blogger, you introduce it to your students, and you let them create blogs of their own on the topics of their choice. So I call this student choice blogs. I first did this in Bulgaria, as I mentioned in the introduction. I actually taught a blogging elective, and I came in on the first day. I looked at all my kids in the computer lab, and I said, you are going to write about whatever you want. We're going to do a different kind of post every week, and I'm going to walk you through the basics, and then you're going to go. And it gave them so much freedom to pursue their own interests, and they were so excited about putting out their voice and their passions to the world, and they loved seeing that visitors from other countries, visitors of all ages, were visiting their blogs. This is a really powerful way of using blogging. So you could do it. You could do a 1-week blogging unit in a whole that you have somewhere in your curriculum. You could make it a year-long project. It could be your 20% time. Maybe every Friday you and your students will go to the lab. You'll introduce a new type of assignment, and they will create a new blog post. Chances are, if you do that, they will begin to develop it on their own as well in their free time, or at least some of them will. Don't worry too much about their topic. Certainly it should be appropriate, but other than that, it could be fantasy football, fashion, gaming, celebrity pets, graphic novels, local news, science. I mean, whatever they are interested in, it doesn't matter. In fact, the more unique, the more you know that they're putting their passion into it. And that's exactly what we want as teachers. So what I would do in my elective is I would give them a different type of blogging assignment each day. So we were only meeting once a week. And I would say, okay, today you're going to do an opinion post. Here's a little bit about what opinion posts are like. Here's an example or two that I found to show you. Now I want you to do your own. Find a way to write an opinion about your topic. Or maybe I would say today we're going to do one of those crazy list posts that are so popular on the internet, like 25 vegetables you didn't know would boost your brain power, or 15 fantasy football players you must have on your roster. They will find ways to adapt these mediums to their own blogs. So you don't have to worry about that. Just give them a couple of examples, show them one online, and then give them time and walk around and just talk to them about what they're doing. You can have them do linked posts. You can have them do a media post. You can say you want them to create a video or create a podcast or a slide share. You can talk to them about how bloggers often have associated YouTube channels. This is a big point of interest for a lot of students, how they often have associated podcasts, or how they will often get seriously into photography and have famous associated Instagram. All these ways are they're good options for helping students to buy in if you have any trouble, which I doubt. You can also use class time to have students comment on each other's blogs once you've been going for a while. And I think this is a really helpful thing to do for them to see each other's work. It gives them, again, that authentic audience that's very immediate. And I want to recommend a really easy way for you to do this, and that is to have your own class blog. So, it can be very simple. It doesn't have to have anything else on it except for a linked list of everybody in your class's blog. So it can say, Mrs. Peterson's class blog at the top, and then it can just have everybody's first names and a colon and then a link to their blog. And that way, when you want to assign commenting, you can say, all right, guys, go into our class blog, and I want you to leave comments on the posts of the 3 students under your name, or the 2 students above your name, or 2 random students, however you want to do it. But I think that is really interesting and fun way for the kids to become involved in each other's blogs as well. They will get some audience from outside the school, from around the world, but it's nice to get that immediate feedback and commentary from within the class too. You also, of course, if you choose, can grade the blogs in this way by commenting below, or you can do that with your own rubric or by emailing the students or however you want. All right, moving into the second use of blogs, and it's an easy transition. It's a class blog. So let's say you want to take it a little step further than just linking everybody as the whole subject of your blog. What I used to do when I had a class blog in Bulgaria, I had everybody's blogs linked on the sidebar in my senior IB English class because I had them all do portfolio blogs. So all my seniors had put up their best writing into blogs, which we were actually sharing with another classroom in the United States, but that would be the topic of another show. But so I had them all linked in the sidebar, but what I actually used the main blog for was to give some summaries of what was going on in class and links to Google Docs of the assignments. So this took me about 5 minutes every day, and it was a tiny bit of a pain, but it was so much less of a pain than any other way I had figured out to share all of the work of class with all the students who are absent. So depending on your scenario, if you often have a lot of kids absent from different periods that you're teaching, it can be so helpful if you don't already have a school technology that makes this easy for you, and I didn't. Just to put up a quick summary, today in class we talked about Macbeth, Act 4, and we did these 2 assignments, which you will find linked here. And then when the students come back and they say, what did I miss? You can just say, remember, you need to check on the blog, you need to print out your work, and you need to turn it in. And it just completely takes it off your shoulders. You're no longer juggling all these different paper folders. And for me, that was super helpful. I also liked being able to put up pictures. Say we did a poetry slam or a theater performance, or some students got their work published and I wanted to feature it. I could use the class blog for this, and that was really nice. It's up to you whether you want to involve parents in the class blog or if you just want to give it to students, but it can be a way of connecting your classroom to the community and to the parents as well. All right, third use, you can use blogs to do different types of projects, and the one that I want to talk about in particular is the idea of a curation project. I heard Jennifer Gonzalez from the Cult of Pedagogy podcast this year talk about curation projects, and I realized that I had done things like this, but I had never really called it curation. I like the name, I like the idea. In a curation project, students are going to share a variety of work around some theme and then knit it together with their introductions, with their commentary and analysis. So it's kind of like the way people would put something together for a museum exhibit. And a blog is a really perfect option for this type of project. So I did this once as a major interdisciplinary honors project with my students, my 10th graders, in conjunction with the history department. So they had to create a blog that was going to highlight content that drew together their literature that they were reading and what they were learning in history. So maybe they were going to put up, a title that had that featured the theme that showed how they were going to draw history and literature together, and then they were going to put up a video that they found and explain how it showed the connections, and they were going to put up some radio clips that they found and explain the context of the radio clips and how they demonstrated their theme and connection. And maybe they were going to put up the text of a poem that really connected the literary voices of the era to some of the crucial moments in history, et cetera, et cetera. So when you do a curation type project or a project blog, you can really get into multimedia, which is really nice and I think interests the students again. And I'm going to say, just like with the free choice, the student choice blogs, do link all those project blogs to your class blog so that at the end of this project, it is really simple for you to spend half an hour or a whole class period having your students go through and look at each other's project blogs and comment and share what they like about them and learn from each other. Okay, the fourth use, and this is a fun one, is to do character blogs. So whatever novel you might be reading, let students choose a main character and design a blog for the character. And you need to build into your project requirements sort of how many posts, how many things on the sidebar, how much multimedia, and really hammer the fact that they can't just go on a total flight of fancy. They need to connect what they're writing to the character and show their understanding of the character and the events in the text through the blog. I did this with Jane Austen's Emma, and I had my students all create blogs for Emma, and it was a lot of fun. I think they really enjoyed putting themselves inside her head and imagining what would be so important to her that she would want to share it with the world. And so I think with most novels, there's going to be a character that's going to capture the imagination enough of the students that they would like this chance to interpret what the character would want to put out there, what they would write about in their personal time, and what they would share. All right, the fifth and final use I want to suggest once you get comfortable with this platform is to consider writing your own teacher blog. And this one, of course, takes us outside the classroom realm, but it would impact your teaching quite a bit if it turns out to be something that's really interesting for you. So starting a blog for yourself, giving yourself a chance just to reflect on your professional practice and join this rather large online community of teacher writers can be a really helpful way to process what you're doing, get perspective on your classroom, and sort of access your own teaching life a bit as a researcher and writer. This can be a good outlet too when and if things are hard. When I first had my travel blog when I was living abroad in Bulgaria, I loved, of course, writing about the wonderful things that happened and the highlight moments at my school and the amazing trips I was taking. But also when something really kind of terrible would happen, I found myself inside my head already imagining how I was going to turn it into this crazy, funny story on the blog. There was a time when my husband and I were stuck on the border between Turkey and Bulgaria for 7 hours. It seemed like all of Europe was trying to get back out of Turkey and back into Bulgaria at the end of the summer. And there was just a line of thousands of cars, and it was about 100 degrees. And we actually had to stop our engine and push our car across the border because if you idled it in the line for 7 hours, you'd run out of gas and you'd just be stuck there. And so it was just this sort of crazy day of sitting in the 100-degree sun with thousands of other people on the border waiting to show our passports. And the whole time, I was wishing we could get across the border, but I was also thinking what an amazing story this was going to be to tell everybody on the blog. And there were lots of times like that. I mean, as much as I love teaching abroad, there were also a lot of crazy moments. And so in your classroom and in your professional experience, if sometimes you have some frustrations and you have some just wild moments that you can't believe are really happening to you, having a way to share them, to laugh about them, to put them in perspective on a blog can be really helpful. And when things go well and you're really killing it with your amazing professional practice, it's nice to know that you can share that with other teachers who can learn from you and your students. And that's really nice too. It can put you on the path toward doing more writing of articles for journals and more presentations to your colleagues at national and local conferences. And so it's something to consider starting a teacher blog. No pressure, but perhaps at some point in your career, now that you're about to become a blogging master, you will want to start a teacher blog. Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to check out the show notes, just head to www.nowsparkcreativity.com and click on the podcast tab at the top of the page. And if you want to see that Facebook Live Introduction to Blogger and discuss this new strategy with 1,000 like-minded creative English teachers around the world, just jump into my Facebook group, Creative High School English, today. The Spark Creativity Teacher Podcast is a proud member of the Education Podcast Network. The Education Podcast Network, podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. For more podcast recommendations, visit edupodcastnetwork.com.